From ancient courts to gilded palaces, the whispers of poison have always followed the powerful. What if the most beautiful smiles hid the deadliest secrets? What if a simple sip from a goblet could change the course of history forever? Number 6. Cyanide. Imagine a grand ballroom, chandeliers twinkling like a million captured stars, music swelling and swirling through the air, and laughter echoing from every corner. Duchess Elena, renowned for her beauty and sharp wit, was the center of attention, surrounded by admirers. Her husband, Duke Vittorio, known for his stern demeanor and vast lands, watched from a distance, a slight frown etched on his face. Their marriage, a union of powerful families, had been a cold affair, and whispers of his interest in a younger, more docile lady had reached Elena's ears. She had spent weeks planning a magnificent ball, a display of her enduring influence and charm, but her mind was also turning to darker matters. The Duke retired early, complaining of a sudden fatigue. He had enjoyed a final sweet liqueur served by his personal butler, a man loyal to the Duchess for generations. The liqueur, a rich, dark amber liquid, had been presented on a silver tray, its scent faintly reminiscent of almonds, though no one paid it much mind. The next morning, the Duke was found lifeless in his opulent bed. His face was a pale canvas, a faint flush on his cheeks. Doctors summoned in haste observed a sudden sharp intake of breath before the final stillness, followed by an immediate cessation of the heart's steady rhythm. The Duke's lungs, as the physician later noted, seemed to have simply stopped working. His eyes fixed on the ceiling held a look of profound surprise. Court gossips, always eager for a scandal, immediately began to speculate. Cyanide, a poison known for its swift and brutal efficiency, had recently gained a grim reputation in certain circles. It acted with chilling speed, often causing a sudden, almost immediate collapse of the victim. The body's cells, it was said, starved of oxygen, even as the lungs tried desperately to draw breath, a silent, internal suffocation. The faint, bitter almond smell, sometimes associated with its presence, could easily be masked by the sweetness of a liqueur or the richness of a dish. The Duchess Elena, graceful even in her sudden widowhood, mourned publicly, her tears seeming genuine to many. Yet some remembered the look in her eyes as she watched the Duke drink that last liqueur, a look that hinted at something more than a wife's devotion. The Duke's family, powerful and vengeful, suspected foul play, but the doctor's report, citing sudden heart failure, provided little concrete evidence. The rapid onset of symptoms, the sheer swiftness of the demise, made a thorough investigation difficult in a time when forensic science was still in its infancy. There was no lingering illness, no slow decline to observe. Just a sudden final breath. The Duke's personal butler, questioned intensely, remained loyal to the Duchess, swearing he had simply followed instructions regarding the Duke's favorite liqueur. He spoke of the Duchess's quiet instructions, her specific preference for the brand of liqueur, and her insistence on personally supervising its transfer into the Duke's decanter. He also mentioned a brief moment when the Duchess was alone with the decanter, her hands moving with a precise, almost surgical grace. But his words were vague, laced with hints and suggestions rather than outright accusations. Sources from the time noted that if a person ingested a sufficient amount of cyanide, their body would quickly turn a faint rosy hue, as if oxygen were still present in the blood. In death, this, combined with the lack of obvious external signs of struggle, made it a poison difficult to trace back to an insidious hand, especially in a time before advanced chemical analysis. The quickness with which the Duke's life ebbed away, the sudden silence where his powerful presence once was, became a chilling testament to the unseen power of such a poison. Duchess Elena, having cemented her position and secured her family's future, continued to rule her lands with an iron fist, her reputation for both beauty and strategic cunning growing with each passing year. The whispers about the Duke's sudden demise never entirely faded. woven into the tapestries of court gossip, a dark thread in the otherwise bright fabric of her triumphant reign. The precise and swift method of the Duke's alleged poisoning, the sheer speed of his passing, left little room for intervention, or even a full understanding of what had transpired in those final terrible moments. It was a poison that promised a quick and decisive end, leaving behind only questions and the chilling silence of a sudden death. Number 5. Strychnine. The grand ball at the court of Queen Isabella was meant to celebrate the impending alliance between her kingdom and a neighboring realm. Cousin, Princess Clarissa, a rival for the throne and a constant thorn in Isabella's side, was present, radiating a quiet confidence that grated on the Queen. Clarissa was known for her beauty and her strong claim to the succession, a claim many in the court preferred to Isabella's own. The air in the ballroom was thick with unspoken tension despite the outward gaiety. Later that evening, after a sumptuous feast, Princess Clarissa retired to her chambers. She had consumed a rich spiced wine, a special vintage served only to the royal family. Within an hour, a commotion erupted from her wing of the palace. Servants ran in terror, calling for physicians. Princess Clarissa was in the throes of a horrifying ordeal. Her body contorted violently, muscles seizing with agonizing force. Her back arched in an unnatural bow, her limbs rigid, stretched taut, as if pulled by unseen wires. Her face, a mask of terror, was locked in a ghastly grin. A rictus had pulled her lips back to reveal her teeth. Physicians rushed to her side, bewildered. They observed her body jerking, then relaxing briefly, only to seize again with renewed, more intense spasms. Each contraction was a wave of torment, her breathing becoming increasingly labored, short, sharp gasps punctuating the terrifying silence between her cries. She was aware, painfully aware, of her body's betrayal. Her mind trapped in a cage of excruciating pain. The symptoms were relentless, starting with a subtle stiffness in her neck and jaw, then spreading like wildfire through her entire body. Her muscles, doctors noted, became incredibly sensitive to the slightest touch or sound, sending her into renewed convulsions. The gentlest whisper, the softest touch could trigger another round of agonizing spasms. Whispers of strychnine began to circulate among the court's learned men. Derived from the seeds of the nux vomica tree, this poison was infamous for its brutal and distinctive effects. It caused severe muscle spasms and convulsions that were often mistaken for epileptic fits, though far more violent and prolonged. The victim's body would arch backward, a terrifying posture known as epistasatonus, a hallmark of strychnine poisoning. Pain, it was said, was unimaginable, a living hell as every muscle in the body contracted without release. Queen Isabella, upon hearing the news, dispatched her most trusted physician, Dr. Alaric, who, despite his best efforts, could do little. He described the princess's condition in harrowing detail, noting the extreme rigidity, the difficulty in breathing, and the blue tinge to her skin as oxygen became scarce. He observed how the princess's consciousness remained largely intact throughout the ordeal, a cruelly ironic twist that allowed her to experience every horrifying spasm. The source of the poison, though suspected by many, remained a mystery. Who could have administered such a thing and so precisely? A serving girl questioned later recalled being instructed by one of Queen Isabella's ladies-in-waiting to add a tiny amount of bitter herb to Princess Clarissa's wine, a secret ingredient to enhance its flavor. The girl had, in her innocence, complied, not realizing the deadly nature of the white crystalline powder she handled. The intensely bitter taste of strychnine was often masked in strong spiced drinks, making it a favored tool for those who desired a painful, dramatic, and unforgettable end for their victim. The small quantity needed to cause such a devastating reaction made it difficult to detect a chilling detail for those who sought a discreet yet effective method. Court records from that era speak of the difficulty in distinguishing such deaths from natural causes, especially those involving neurological conditions. The distinct and terrifying symptoms of strychnine, though unmistakable to those familiar with them, could still be attributed to unknown ailments by less experienced physicians, or those keen to avoid scandal. The slow, agonizing progression of the princess's symptoms from initial stiffness to full-body convulsions, ensured that her suffering was prolonged and witnessed by many a horrifying spectacle that left a lasting impression on the court. Queen Isabella eventually solidified her reign. Her path cleared by the tragic demise of her cousin, the horror of Princess Clarissa's final hours became a dark legend whispered behind closed doors, a stark reminder of the lengths to which some would go to secure power. The silent accusation of strychnine, though never officially confirmed, lingered like a spectral presence in the halls of the palace, a testament to the chilling precision and agonizing cruelty of a poison used to break a rival. The memory of Clarissa's contorted body and her terror-stricken eyes haunted those who witnessed her final, painful breaths, forever binding the poison to the intricate web of court intrigue. Number 4. Hemlock. In the ancient city-state of Veritas, where political power often shifted like desert sands, lived Queen Lyra, a woman of sharp intellect and even sharper ambition. Her rule, though initially praised, had grown increasingly tyrannical. A group of disgruntled senators, fearing for their lives and the future of their republic, began to plot against her. Among them was the revered elder Theron, a philosopher whose influence reached every corner of the city. He dared to speak out against Lyra's decrees, earning her quiet but deadly animosity. One evening, Theron was summoned to the royal palace under the pretense of a philosophical debate with the queen. He was offered a cup of refreshing herbal tea, a common courtesy in the royal chambers. Theron, trusting in the sanctity of intellectual discourse, accepted the offering without suspicion. As the evening progressed, engaged in deep discussion with Lyra, he began to feel an unusual weakness in his legs. A strange numbness spread through his extremities, slowly creeping upwards, a cold tide rising within him. The numbness turned into a peculiar paralysis, rendering his muscles useless. He found it increasingly difficult to move his feet, then his hands. His limbs felt heavy, unresponsive. He remained lucid, his mind sharp, but his body was failing him. The sensation was terrifying. He could think, he could see, he could hear, but he could not command his own limbs. The physician, summoned in a panic by his distraught assistants, observed a progressive weakness that began in his feet and steadily ascended, claiming control of his muscles one by one. His voice became faint, his breathing shallow, yet his eyes remained wide, filled with a desperate awareness. Hemlock, a poison extracted from a plant with delicate white flowers and fern-like leaves, was well known in the ancient world. It caused a slow ascending paralysis that would eventually seize the respiratory muscles, leading to death by suffocation. The victim chillingly remained fully conscious throughout the ordeal, a prisoner in their own failing body, watching their life ebb away. Accounts from the period spoke of how the victim would shiver and gasp for breath, their chest straining as their diaphragm and intercostal muscles ceased to function. Queen Lyra watched Theron's agonizing decline with an impassive gaze. She offered no aid, no comfort, merely observed the slow, agonizing process. Cold demeanor fueled the suspicions that later circulated to Veritas. Theron's assistants, loyal to him, recounted how the queen had personally poured the tea, her fingers briefly touching the cup as she handed it to the elder. They also spoke of the specific herbal blend she had insisted on, one known for its calming properties, which would have masked any unusual taste or scent. Ancient scrolls and medical texts from that era describe how hemlock was often used in political assassinations, favored for its lack of overt violence and the deceptive appearance of a natural, albeit rapid, decline. The victim often experienced nausea and dizziness before the paralysis began, symptoms that could be dismissed as simple indigestion. The lack of violent convulsions or outward signs of struggle made it a cleaner death in the eyes of those who sought to eliminate rivals discreetly. The gradual loss of motor control, the progressive inability to move, speak, or even breathe, created a horrifying scene that left a profound impact on those who witnessed it. Theron, despite his mind being clear, could not even gesture for help or articulate his torment. His slow slide into complete immobility, culminating in the complete cessation of his breathing, was a chilling demonstration of the poison's cruel efficacy. The very air around him, once filled with his wise words, grew silent as his final breath escaped. Queen Lyra's reign continued, but the shadow of Theron's death, whispered throughout the city, cast a long, dark pall over her authority. Tale of the philosopher who died with his mind intact, a prisoner in his own body, became a stark warning of the dangers of crossing a powerful ruler. The quiet, insidious nature of hemlock, leaving no obvious trace beyond its devastating effects, made it a terrifying tool for those who sought to silence dissent without leaving blood on their hands. Number 3. Aconite, wolfsbane. In the lavish yet treacherous court of the Italian Renaissance lived Duchess Elena, a woman whose beauty was matched only by her cunning. She sought to expand her family's influence by orchestrating a marriage between her son and the daughter of a powerful rival duke, Duke Lorenzo. However, Lorenzo proved resistant, seeing through Isolde's machinations and refusing the union. Isolde, a master of dark arts and whispers, decided to remove this obstacle. One evening, during a diplomatic dinner, Duke Lorenzo enjoyed a special dish prepared by the Duchess's own cooks, a savory stew rich with herbs and exotic spices. Within hours of returning to his chambers, Lorenzo was overcome by a profound sense of unease. He felt a tingling sensation begin in his fingers and toes, quickly spreading to his lips and tongue. It was a peculiar numbness, as if his skin had fallen asleep. This sensation quickly intensified, becoming a burning pain searing through his extremities. Soon after, waves of nausea swept over him, followed by violent, uncontrollable vomiting and debilitating diarrhea. His heart began to pound erratically, skipping beats, then racing wildly. He felt a chilling coldness spread through his body despite a rising fever. The physicians, summoned in a panic, observed his pupils, fixed and dilated, his face contorted in agony. He was racked with spasms, his body trembling uncontrollably, yet his skin felt strangely cold to the touch. Constant vomiting and purging quickly led to extreme dehydration, further weakening him. Aconite, also known as wolfsbane or the Queen of Poisons, in some historical accounts, is derived from a beautiful but deadly flower. It is incredibly potent, and even a small amount can be fatal. Its symptoms are diverse and often mimic other illnesses, making it difficult to detect without advanced forensic method. The initial tingling and numbness are distinctive, followed by severe gastrointestinal distress and life-threatening heart rhythm disturbances. The poison directly affects the heart and nervous system, leading to both immense pain and rapid organ failure. Duchess Elena, maintaining a facade of concern, sent her own physicians to attend to Duke Lorenzo, offering her deepest sympathies. Yet some in her household remembered her keen interest in unusual plants, particularly those with striking flowers that grew in her private secluded garden. They recalled seeing her handle a particular purple-blue flower with extreme care, wearing gloves and instructing her gardener to treat it with the utmost respect due to its delicate nature. One cook, fearing for his life later, whispered that he had been given a tiny amount of a dark, oily liquid by one of the Duchess's ladies-in-waiting, instructed to add it to the Duke's portion of the stew for enhanced flavor. The liquid, he noted, had a faint, earthy smell, easily masked by the rich spices. Historical chroniclers from the era often wrote of aconite's use in assassinations, particularly by those seeking to eliminate rivals without leaving obvious traces of violence. The diverse symptoms, the destin upset, the neurological effects, the cardiac issues could be attributed to various common ailments, from cholera to severe food poisoning. This made it a favored weapon in courts rife with intrigue, where suspicion was rampant but proof was scarce. The slow, agonizing progression of the Duke's symptoms, from initial numbness to cardiac arrest, allowed for a period of intense suffering that must have seemed unending. The Duchess's son eventually married the Duke's daughter, solidifying her family's power. The official cause of Duke Lorenzo's death was declared a sudden and severe illness, but the whispers of poison and of the Duchess's involvement persisted. The chilling tales of aconite's insidious power, its ability to inflict profound internal torment while leaving few external marks, became part of the court's dark lore. The memory of Duke Lorenzo's agonizing final hours, his body convulsing as his heart struggled, served as a stark reminder of the hidden dangers lurking beneath the surface of courtly elegance. The beautiful yet deadly flower became a silent symbol of the quiet yet devastating power wielded by those who knew its secrets. Number 2. Belladonna, Deadly Nightshade. In the opulent but politically turbulent court of the Holy Roman Empress Sophia, a woman of formidable intellect and ambition, her younger, more favored sister, Princess Amara, was constantly gaining influence. Amara, known for her captivating beauty and charming demeanor, was a threat to Sophia's absolute authority. Sophia, wary of open confrontation, sought a more subtle means to neutralize her rival. One evening, Princess Amara complained of feeling unwell after attending a small, intimate gathering hosted by the Empress. She had consumed a cup of herbal tea which Sophia herself had personally prepared, claiming it was a special blend to aid digestion. Amara had also, as was the fashion, used drops of a special tincture to dilate her pupils. Believing it enhanced her beauty, a common practice among the court ladies, within hours, Amara's condition worsened dramatically. Her pupils became enormously dilated, giving her eyes a wide, almost unnatural beauty, but also making her sensitive to light. Her mouth became so dry, she struggled to speak, her throat feeling as if it were stuffed with cotton. Soon she began to experience vivid hallucinations, seeing things that were not there, speaking to imaginary figures, and exhibiting extreme confusion. She tossed and turned, her skin flushed and hot to the touch, her body gripped by a fever that raged uncontrollably. Her heart raced its beat, erratic and alarming. Belladonna, or deadly nightshade, is a plant with beautiful dark berries and delicate purple flowers. Its name, Belladonna, meaning beautiful lady, in Italian, comes from its historical use by women to dilate their pupils, making their eyes appear larger and more alluring. Its poisons, atropine and scopolamine, affect the nervous system, leading to a terrifying array of symptoms, including delirium, hallucinations, extreme dry mouth, dilated pupils, fever, and rapid heart rate. Victims often succumb to respiratory failure. Empress Sophia, feigning deep concern, called in the finest physicians who were perplexed by Amara's rapidly deteriorating state. They observed her wild eyes, her feverish skin, and her incoherent babbling, noting the madness that seemed to consume her. Some physicians from the period, while not fully understanding the mechanisms, recorded similar cases of feverish delirium following the consumption of certain plants, often attributing it to demonic possession or a sudden severe brain affliction. Court lady in waiting, devoted to Amara, later confessed that Empress Sophia had instructed her to add a small amount of a special tonic to the princess's nightly tea. Tonic, a clear liquid, had no discernible smell or taste, making it easy to disguise. She also noted that the Empress had seemed unusually interested in the princess's choice of pupil, dilating tinctures, even offering her own vial on several occasions, claiming it was stronger and more effective. This suggested a calculated exposure, layering the effects of a common cosmetic with a far deadlier intent. Accounts from that time often describe how belladonna poisoning could easily be mistaken for a natural illness, particularly one involving brain fever or madness. The victim's delirious state and the physical symptoms like fever and rapid pulse could be attributed to a sudden acute disease. This made it a particularly insidious poison for those who sought to remove rivals without leaving behind obvious signs of foul play. The mental disarray it caused in the victim, the terrifying hallucinations and utter confusion, ensured a death that was both agonizing and baffling. Princess Amara finally succumbed her last moments, a terrifying dance between reality and nightmare. Her death was officially declared a brain fever, But the strange circumstances and the sudden onset of madness fueled dark rumors. The Empress, her rival, removed, solidified her position, her power now unquestioned. The whispers about the beautiful lady's strange demise, a death cloaked in delirium and fever, became a chilling cautionary tale in the court. The deceptive beauty of the belladonna plant, masking such a horrific internal torment, made it a silent yet devastating weapon in the hands of a scheming queen. Number 1. Arsenic. In the glittering yet treacherous courts of Renaissance Italy, where power was a constant struggle and alliances shifted like shadows, lived Queen Isabella, a woman known for her sharp intelligence and ruthless ambition. Her husband, King Ferdinand, a robust man with a hearty appetite, was a constant source of frustration. He stood in the way of her political ambitions, his traditional views clashing with her progressive, often Machiavellian plans. Isabella, ever the strategist, sought a solution that would be both effective and untraceable. The king began to experience a series of recurring illnesses. First, it was a nagging stomach upset, dismissed as indigestion from his love of rich foods. Then came bouts of severe abdominal pain accompanied by relentless vomiting and debilitating diarrhea. He grew progressively weaker, losing weight at an alarming rate, his once ruddy complexion turning pale and gaunt. He complained of a burning sensation in his throat and stomach, a persistent torment that no amount of food or drink seemed to alleviate. His hair began to thin and his nails showed strange pale lines. Physicians, summoned repeatedly, attributed his symptoms to various common ailments of the time, dysentery, cholera, or simply a prolonged and severe fever. They treated him with common remedies, unaware of the insidious force at work. They observed his extreme dehydration, his parched lips, and the relentless purging that slowly drained his life force. The king's strength slowly ebbed away, his once booming voice reduced to a frail whisper. Arsenic, often called the king of poisons, was infamous for its tasteless, odorless, and colorless nature in its pure form, making it remarkably easy to administer undetected in food or drink. It was readily available, often used in pigments and pest control. Its symptoms mimicked those of common diseases of the era, such as cholera, dysentery, or gastroenteritis, making it the perfect tool for a discreet, drawn-out assassination. The poison caused severe gastrointestinal distress, extreme dehydration, and organ failure, leading to a slow and agonizing death. Queen Isabella, ever the devoted wife in public, carefully nursed her ailing husband, ensuring that only she or her most trusted servants prepared his food and drinks. She would often personally bring him his nightly broth or wine, showing deep concern for his comfort. One of her ladies-in-waiting, a young woman named Bianca who harbored a secret fear of the queen, later confided in a priest that she had seen Isabella adding a fine white powder to the king's broth on several occasions. Powder, Bianca noted, dissolved quickly and left no residue. The queen, Bianca recalled, would then stir it with a silver spoon, her face devoid of emotion. Historical chroniclers from that period wrote extensively about the prevalence of arsenic in assassinations, especially within noble families. It allowed for a gradual weakening of the victim, making their eventual demise appear to be the result of a lingering illness rather than a sudden act of violence. The long, drawn-out suffering, the weeks or months of decline, added to the deception. The victim's body would slowly waste away, exhibiting chronic symptoms that could easily be misinterpreted. The famous aqua tofana, a notorious poison of the 17th century, was believed to be largely arsenic-based, renowned for its ability to cause a slow, almost undetectable death. King's death, after many agonizing months, was officially attributed to natural causes, or a wasting disease. Queen Isabella, now a widow, swiftly assumed full control of the kingdom, implementing her ambitious reforms without opposition. The whispers of poison, though never openly proven, clung to her name, forming a chilling legacy. The tale of King Ferdinand's slow, agonizing decline, a death shrouded in the common ailments of the time, became a stark reminder of the insidious power of arsenic, a poison that allowed its user to kill without leaving a trace, weaving death into the very fabric of life itself. The silent agony, the slow betrayal painted a terrifying picture of unseen dangers within the most intimate royal chambers.